Hello everybody and welcome back to Certified Collectibles. This is another episode of First Appearance of the Week. This is Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. We'll be giving you all the first appearance in your comic shops today. Now this week we got a pretty good lineup for you guys. I think we have 8 first appearances, 2 honorable mentions, so 10 titles all to go through. Definitely some books in there you guys should pick up for your collection. So let's go ahead and get started for the first appearance of the week ending February 21st, 2025. First up from DC Comics. Challengers of the Unknown #3. This features the first appearance of the Optimum, a being that claims to be from the future. Now, we remind you guys about this all the time. These first appearances in DC Comics, DC really has to do something spectacular with these characters to make these characters important long term and to make these issues collectible in the long run. DC doesn't have the cinematic power that Marvel Disney has to get a lot of these new characters they're introducing in the comics onto the screen in front of a lot more eyes, get a lot more collectors and fans interested in them. So therefore, they definitely got to do something spectacular, bring these characters across all the storylines or the story arcs and into some of the more mainstay title series to get fans and collectors to actually notice them and actually want to collect them. So that's why a lot of these DC first appearances are going to be a little more speculative. In addition to that, this Challengers of the Unknown title series, this is definitely a B-reel for DC Comics. This is not one of their mainstay or tentpole title series, so this title series alone does not have a lot of fans and collectors. So with all those factors in play, this one here is definitely going to be speculative. $3 or $4 it may be worth a spec, but this one here is definitely going to be speculative. Grab this here for a spec if you can. If you can't, put in your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from DC Comics, New Gods #3. This features the first appearance of Arbor Strata, Perzurum, and Nectar, a trio of sibling gods. This also features the origin of Akala. Now, the New Gods title series, this is also one of DC Comics' lesser collected title series. This is Volume 5 of this series, so this series has been around for quite a while. Like I said, this is Volume 5, so fans and collectors are familiar with this title series, but I don't really know how big of a fan base or collector base this series has. That being said, though, this issue does introduce 3 new characters into this title series. This is a trio of sibling gods. Don't really know how important they're going to be in the overall DC universe, or if they're just going to remain in this particular title series, or how important they're going to be with fans and collectors. So once again, this here is going to be speculative. $3 or $4 maybe worth a spec, though. Like we always say, some of these titles may be worth picking up, because if they're under collected when they come out, and these characters do go big, and fans and collectors do like them later on, there's not going to be a lot of them out there, so you definitely want to add these books to your collection at the $3 or $4 mark. But like I said, definitely speculative. Grab this here for a spec if you can. If you can't, put in your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from DC Comics, Zatanna #1. This features the first appearance of the Lady White, a ghostly adversary. This is also the premiere issue of Volume 3 of this title series. Now, Zatanna does have a fan base and collector base. There are collectors that really like this character, and they have been collecting this character or this title series. Like I said, this is Volume 3, so this series has been around for a while, but the character Zatanna herself, she has been in other title series also. So like I said, there is a fan base and collector base for this character. So in this issue here, they are introducing a new ghostly adversary, Lady White, and like I said, this is the premiere issue of this new series, so this here has a few things going for it, and like I said, Zatanna does have a fan base and collector base. It will be a little more speculative, because you are hoping DC does something with these characters, or this title series, or Zatanna the character herself, to make this character or this title more important in the future, and make collectors and fans want to hold on to this book. So like I said, it is going to be a little more speculative, but of the 3 we mentioned so far, this is probably your better bet. Grab this here for a spec if you can. If you can't, put in your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from Marvel Comics, Doom Academy #1. This features the first team appearance of Doom Academy. Now at this point, we really don't know what characters comprise this team, Doom Academy. So if this is just a collection of already existing characters that they're just cramming together into a new team, this one here may not be all that important. Marvel's been doing this lately where they just pick a lot of existing characters, put them together in a new team format, introduce them in a new title series, and hope they catch on and hope fans and collectors really like that team up. It's hard to say the success rate of that because a lot of these books have just been coming out over the last year, these new team-ups. So at this point, we really don't know the long-term collectability of these new teams. Now, if this team is comprised of new characters, and this is the first appearance of those particular characters, this one here is one you definitely want to pick up. But like I said, if this is just a team that's comprised of already existing characters that everybody already knows, and they're just teamed up in a new format, then this one here may not be all that important. With all that being said, though, we do typically recommend picking up the first appearance of new teams or characters in Marvel titles because Marvel Disney is still churning out a ton of media for a small screen and big screen. You don't really know where any of these teams or characters are going to end up. If you hit the screen and collectors want them and collectors like them, they will race back to the secondary market and try to find these first appearances. So this one here will be a little more speculative than some of the other Marvel titles we have on the list today. But like we always say, $3 or $4 may be worth the risk. So grab this one here if you can. If you can't, put in your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from Marvel Comics, Exceptional X-Men number 6. This features a first appearance of Sheldon Xenos, a charismatic tech mogul. At this point, we really don't know anything about this charismatic tech mogul, but the last charismatic tech mogul we had was Tony Stark, so I really don't know if they're trying to make a new Tony Stark character here, or a Tony Stark-esque character in this particular issue. And if they do, it really depends on how that character resonates with fans as to how important this character is going to be in the future. With that being said, though, the X-Men franchise has a huge fan base, huge collector base, and anytime they introduce a new character into that universe, these are books you typically do want to pick up for the $3 or $4. You definitely don't want to chase them down years later for a lot more money. So this here does feature this first appearance of this new character, Sheldon Xenos. And like I said, if they are creating this new Tony Stark-esque character, probably worth picking this one up. So this is one we do think you should pick up for your collection. Go ahead and grab this one. Next up from Marvel Comics, Star Wars The High Republic Fear of the Jedi number 1. This features the first appearance of Real Darrow, a reporter. Now, we typically recommend picking up the first appearance of new characters in these Marvel published Star Wars titles. You know, Marvel Disney is still churning a ton of media for the Star Wars franchise, and there's a huge fan base and huge collector base. May not be as big now as it used to be, though, but there still is a huge fan base and collector base for Star Wars, the franchise itself. Not only does this issue feature the first appearance of a new character, but this is also the premiere issue of this new title series. This one here, in my opinion, is worth picking up. Like I said, always worth picking up the first appearance of new characters in these Marvel published Star Wars titles. So grab this one here for your collection. Next up from Marvel Comics, Ultimate Wolverine number 2. This features a first team appearance of the Opposition, a group fighting for mutant liberation. Now, right now, we don't really know who comprises this team. Once again, if this team is comprised of existing characters, may not be all that important. If this is the first appearance of new characters that form this team, definitely a pickup. But in my opinion, this is worth picking up anyway. Any of these new Ultimate titles, this is issue number 2 of Ultimate Wolverine. In my opinion, it's probably worth picking up issues 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of all these new Ultimate series. People love this series, and if they do introduce new characters and new teams into these issues, these are books you definitely want to own. In my opinion, definitely a pickup. Go ahead and grab this one here for your collection. And finally for Marvel Comics, Weapon X-Men number 1. This features the first team appearance of Weapon X-Men 2. This is Wolverine, Deadpool, Cable, Chamber, and Thunderbird. Now once again, this is a new team-up of existing characters, and this here is the premiere issue of this new title series. This is volume 2 of the series, so the series has been around for a little while. Like I said, this is volume 2, but this is just a team-up of existing characters, so it really depends on what Marvel does with this team-up here. If they bring this particular team-up to the screen, whether small screen or big screen, you will have collectors racing back and trying to find this original team-up. So this one here will be a little more speculative because you are specking on this team being more important, more so than a team that preceded it. But for $3 or $4, probably worth the spec. Grab this here for a spec if you can. If you can't, put in your B-list and take a look at it later on. And now for the honorable mentions. From Dynamite Entertainment, Darkwing Duck number 1. Now we put this on the list because this here is the premiere issue of Darkwing Duck. This is an incredibly popular franchise, huge fan base, huge collector base. Anytime there's a premiere issue or a relaunch of this title series, these are books, in my opinion, you want to pick up. I mean, for $3 or $4, it's definitely worth the risk on grabbing these. You know, if they go nowhere, you're out $3 or $4. But, you know, like I said, there's a huge fan base and huge collector base for these Darkwing Duck title series and this whole Darkwing Duck franchise itself. In my opinion, definitely a book worth picking up and holding on to. So if you can, grab this here for your collection. And finally, from Dynamite Entertainment, Herculoids number 1. Now we put this one here on the list because this here is another premiere issue of another Hanna-Barbera classic. Hidden in the furthest reaches of space, the planet Amzat is legendary for its fabled riches, and for the terrible fates that befall anyone who seeks to exploit them. Raiders and pirates continue to come from across the galaxy, and there's only one force strong enough to stop their constant attacks, the Herculoids. Now, Herculoids, that franchise, did have a collector base and a fan base many years ago, so there will be some nostalgia baiting in this. You know, there will be some nostalgia collectors that pick this particular issue up. We put this on the list, like I said, because this here is a premiere issue of this series. You know, anytime there's a premiere issue of one of these new cartoon series that come to comics, you know, from Hanna-Barbera, or from Looney Tunes, or from Disney, there are going to be nostalgia collectors that want to pick those books up. Now, how important those issues are going to be 10 or 20 years from now, you know, that has yet to be seen. But for right now, this here will be popular, and you will have some collectors picking this up. So this one here is definitely going to be speculative, but like I said, we put it on the list because this here is a Hanna-Barbera series. Might be worth picking up the spec on. Definitely going to leave that up to you guys. So grab this here for a spec if you can. If you can't, put in your B-list and take a look at it later on. So there you have the 10 titles we have for you guys this week. There's definitely some books in there you guys should pick up for your collection. So please feel free to drop some comments in the comment section below. Thumbs up if you like this video. And as always, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for joining us here at Certified Collectibles, and we'll see you again next time.